quick question. What do you think a 15-second video ad costs to produce? Well, if you've ever asked an agency, you know the answer. It starts with a call about your budget, and it ends with you deciding your business doesn't need video after all. Well, today on the show, live, we're going to make a complete 15-second commercial, start to finish, script to final cut. Claude will write the script. Google Flow will help generate the footage. And before this hour is up, we will play the finished ad on this stream, full screen. No crew, no shoot day, no agency invoice. As you can see, I'm flying solo today. So you in the chat are going to be my co-hosts. So let's keep it interactive. This is the Shift AI show presented by AWeber. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited for this one. This one's near and dear to my heart as somebody who has a video production and commercial production background. It's both really exciting and it feels a little maybe traumatizing thinking about being able to do what we can do now with video and ad creation without the help of anybody and in frankly a small amount of time. We're going to do it pretty fast and rough today, like pretty quick concept, quick output. Obviously, you'll be able to, I think you can see that you could refine some of it if you spend a little bit more time. But I mean, within a few hours, you could have a highly polished ad, and we're going to show that. And look, maybe you're sitting there going, I don't need video ads. I don't need whatever. I hope it unlocks for you at least some of the possibilities of what you can now accomplish using AI in terms of video production, video creation. And you may have a different use for that. Maybe that's using it in a course or something like that. But I'm going to show it pretty quickly. So welcome everybody. I'm going to jump in pretty quickly. And I'm going to show you too, because there's not like this aha where it's like, oh, okay, great. You generated all this stuff. And now I need a video editor to put it together, or I need to spend manual time. We're actually going to use Claude to assemble the footage as well, which is pretty rad. All right, so let's jump straight in. If you don't have it, the Shift Show Megadoc has a couple of prompts that we're going to be using today. I just dropped the link for that back in the chat again. Erica, welcome. Hello. Jackie, welcome. I'm glad. I'm excited for this one. So I have this starter prompt in the Megadoc, right? For episode 32, you see it for generating your creative prompts. There's a lot of placeholders in this that allow you to kind of identify the duration of the ad or video that you're creating, the business that it's for, the product or offer that you're promoting, what it needs to communicate, the tone that it should communicate in, the audience that it's for, where it's going to be used. And then it's going to tell it to produce the package, and it's going to create a number of things. First, it's going to come up with the ad concept. I'm not really giving it a lot of specific instruction of like, I want an ad that's about this character doing this thing. You can be really explicit if you have an idea, but it's also really great at kind of going, okay, I understand the parameters. Let's come up with the concept. So in my case, I have it generating the concept for me. It's going to write a short script with limited voiceover that we're going to produce. The coolest part is going to give me the exact image prompts to drop into ChatGPT to have these still image reference images created. Then it's going to give me the exact prompts to give to Google Flow along with those reference images to have the footage created. It's going to give me some production notes, a copy check, and I can give it brand voice rules to follow for all of those. So I've actually already, just for everybody's sanity and sake, I've modified the prompt with placeholders filled in. Once again, we're going after Chris's Pickleball Company because what's more fun than a pickleball ad? So I've modified this to create a 15-second ad for Dinky promoting one of their paddles. It should communicate the aesthetic beauty of the paddle, the fun of pickleball, and the silliness of the brand. It should be quirky and upbeat. It's for pickleball enthusiasts and beginners. Rocky, absolutely. Every episode is always available on demand on YouTube, or you can go to aweber.com/shift or youtube.com/aweber. and catch every episode on demand there. But I'm glad you're with us for now. And then I have it complete producing that package. I gave it like very minimal voice rules. I said just be fun and approachable. You can get like really specific. We've had some episodes where you write your brand voice and guidelines, and if you have those and you did that, you could drop those in here to make sure that it's consistent with your brand. So we'll set that off. So it's going to go ahead now, and like I said, the really neat part about this is it's going to create the exact prompts for me to give to ChatGPT. That's our second step. So first step is giving. I use Claude. You could be using ChatGPT for this first step too. I just prefer the output from Claude, so I'm using that. But there's not a hard or fast rule there. So I'm giving Claude that starter prompt from the Megadoc with all of my bits of information plugged into it. It's going to give me the exact prompts that I'm going to take into step 2 to give the ChatGPT in just a moment. So for everybody's sake as well, I do have some of this pre-produced, only because, not because this is one of those like, bake ahead of time and pretend that it was really quick and easy, but there's a lot of generation happening here. I'm hoping that this package is generated fairly quickly because I want to use a real one here, but some of the image generation, some of the footage generation is a little bit more time consuming. So we'll run one or two, but I also want to be mindful of showing the output and the outcome and the process without getting too caught in the weeds and making everybody just kind of watch as we produce an ad or watch it generate. So the concept, the glow up dink, every time the Sunrise paddle touches the ball, it triggers a warm golden flare. Like the paddle just walks runway. Opponent point to stare at it. The rally never stops. By the third hit, the whole court is starstruck and someone's taking a picture of a paddle instead of playing pickleball. It generates the script here. As you can see, it's got visual direction, voiceover, sound effects. It dictates what should be on the end card. Dinky.com logo centered, product shot of the Sunrise paddle. And then here's the really neat part that I think is such a cool unlock. It's the reference image prompts. So reference 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth is not going to generate, but it's the logo and it's for that end card. But it's something that I'm going to take here, and we're going to pop over to ChatGPT now, and I'm going to tell it to create an image, and just literally just paste that prompt in. And we'll let it go. Now, in the interest, my impatience allows me to want to just kind of keep going. So we're going to go second prompt here, paste it in and go. New chat. And we'll grab that third and final reference image prompt that Claude put together for us. Now, I am copying and pasting these essentially sight unseen. But listen, like you may look at the prompt that it puts together. In this case, it's saying, product photo of a pickleball paddle, 16 millimeters thick. Paddle face has a smooth sunrise gradient from deep court, like et cetera. Like lots of detail. You might go, you know what? Actually, I don't want it to look like that. I want it to look like this. Add your, like we talk about this all the time. Like AI cannot do taste. It does its best from what it understands and it's been trained on. But by all means, bring your voice, your perspective, your vision to it. These prompts do not have to be used out of the box. I think what's really neat is that it takes a pretty descriptive approach to it. So here we go. We have the pickleball paddle. In all honesty, I probably would have given it an additional reference image as it created this one of the actual product, since we're dealing with a true physical product, but I'm not going to waste our time with that right now. It looks, let's call it close enough. Chris would probably disagree since it is his, his product. This one is still generating. And it looks like we have our pickleball court image here. Love it. So it's generated the images, right? Now, the next step that we're going to take is we go back to those. We want to save each of these images. So I'll download each of these real fast. Here's our pickleball action scene. And I wasn't really paying close attention, but it chose to make this a 9:16. So we'll say we're making this for social media, but that was in the explicit prompt. I could have given it direction to say, make it 16:9 if I were running this, like say on a TV ad or in a format where I wanted a traditional horizontal ad. But that's completely up to you. All right, so now we've downloaded our images. We're going to go back over to this initial output from Claude. So part 4, we have video prompts. And what's kind of neat is it'll tell you, for scene 1, reference image 1 of the paddle, image 2 of the court, and then it has this prompt. So let's grab this. We're going to jump into Google Flow. Now, Google Flow we've covered in the past. It's a pretty powerful video generation tool from Google. It is, as we've talked about before, it is in their labs, which means it's an experiment at this point. It's not fully stable, and you'll see as we work through this that there's a few little like quirks and like kinks at times that have to kind of be worked through, but we'll do that together. I think it's just helpful to realize that you can kind of push through them and get the end result that you want. But, sometimes along the way, it's a little silly. So the first thing I'm going to do is down here in the, I apologize because Google Flow is this like very dark. Let me see if I can move myself out of the way here. No, that's not what I wanted to do. So I cannot move myself, unfortunately. It's this dark UI, so it's kind of a little bit harder to see. But in the bottom right, there's a chat box, and there's a plus button at the bottom of that. So I'm going to click that, and it allows me to upload media that I have. I'll click that button, quickly select my 3 images that we just produced in ChatGPT, and it's going to upload them here. So what I can do here is once they're uploaded, I can choose which ones I want to add to the prompt. And if you remember from this first video prompt, scene 1, it wants us to reference the paddle image and the court along with the prompt. So back in Google Flow, I'm going to choose the paddle image, and I'm going to choose the court image. And I'm going to tell it in this big white button here, I'm going to tell it to add it to the prompt. So now you see that these, I apologize, my face is obscuring it a little bit. You know what, let's do this. I hope that's a little bit better. And then I'm going to paste the prompt right here. So we've got our 2 reference images added, and we've got the prompt that Claude produced for us, and we're going to kick it off here. Now it's going to think for a second, and what it does is it'll say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And it'll propose what it's going to do, and you have to click approve. What's funny, and one of the first quirks of Google Flow, and it's kind of like unstable state, is, okay, that time it worked, right? It said, I'm going to generate a 10-second golden hour video using your paddle and court images as visual references. Would you like me to kick off this one video costing 15 credits? I'm going to click approve, and it's going to go. Sometimes it says what it's going to do, but it doesn't give you the approve option. And you just kind of have to go, okay, sounds good. And maybe a second time, go ahead. And then eventually it'll give you that approve button. Like, it's like, oh yeah, right. I was going to do that. So don't get stuck there. If the approve button doesn't show up, just do what you would do with a human and be like, okay, go ahead. Like, stop zoning out, pay attention. And it will give you that, because you do have to click approve to get it to move forward. I am sure that there is a setting for like not having to approve. Like, yes, so this one says confirm before generating. There is a never option, but when I had that on previously, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. It would just stall and I couldn't get it to move forward. So at least with like the approval, even if it forgets to ask for approval sometimes, I can nudge it and get it to finally ask for approval to move forward. All right. So I think it's just wrapping up our first bit of footage. This is interesting because the paddle is perfectly balanced on top of the net. I don't know that I believe that. But look, here's another quirk and interesting thing. So it's using, I believe, Omni as the model. I will say this. Would I use all of this clip? Absolutely not, because that paddle could not possibly be resting on top of the net. But could you get away with maybe from about here to there being useful? Yeah, sure. It even has like a jump cut to like a tighter framed shot of it. Yeah, I could use part of that. So we're good there. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you could also sit here and be like, I'm going to reprompt like 2 to 3 more generations of this to try to get a more perfectly usable scene. For today's sake, because nobody wants to be here all afternoon, I'm just going to keep moving and we'll use what we can. I'm really more concerned with showing you the process. And then I will show you a pickleball ad that I created using this exact process. I did not do multiple generations. And I'll show you that final state, just so you get an idea of what you can produce using the process. But I don't. I want to like balance, like I want to get through the process in a reasonable amount of time, but also understand like you can take more time with each of these steps. When it generates those initial prompts, take some time to refine them. When it generates the initial reference images, take some time to regenerate a few more until you're really happy with that reference image. And the reference image is just a still that represents the scene that's going to be produced. Great question, Jennifer. You do need a paid Google AI plan. I shouldn't say that. I do think in the free version you can use Google Flow, but you have something like 50 credits a day, and each generation of a scene is about 15 credits, so you can get by with like 3 per day. So hey, if you're patient, yeah, you could do it in the free version. Me, I am an impatient person, so I have the paid. I think it's like AI Pro with Google, and that gives me something like 1,000 credits, maybe a month. And so I can kind of burn through those as I want to and not have to be slowed down by daily limits. The one other element, and we'll get to that in a little bit, is the final assembly is going to happen in Claude using Fable 5, their newest, most advanced model. Fable 5 is not available on free Claude plans, and pricing varies on paid plans. So that is one that you'll need to use that for. To Catbase, Gemini is their language learning model and conversational tool. Google Flow uses credits from your general Google AI account. So you'll need like an AI Plus or Pro if you want a lot of credits. If you just want to use a free account, you can get a few generations per day before you hit that limit. Okay, so next scene. This time we're referencing the paddle and the shot of the players. Let's kick off one more. So I'm going to paste my prompt, and then I want to add my images to it again. So the paddle, and I want to add the players this time as well. And we will generate again. Now, once again, let's see if it gets stuck. Okay, I'm going to generate a 10-second dramatic pickleball action video using your paddle and court player images as visual references. I think we might have just run into it. So it just kind of stalls. You'll notice like if that approval button doesn't come up pretty quickly, it just kind of like it lost its train of thought. It's a goldfish. So I say, okay, go ahead. It's thinking again, and there we go. So again, don't allow that to stop you from getting like a really good result. And I see the Eco Florist loves the balancing paddle. Hey, you make your own ad. Like if you like having a paddle balance, like it doesn't have to be based in reality, right? Like, isn't that half the fun of using AI for this stuff? I laugh looking at that because I'm like, in my days of actually producing ads, like that would have taken like 4 people and like all kinds of like adhesive and tapes and hidden things to just to get it to balance there. and instead we accidentally produced that result. All right, so this next one is running, and we are close to it being ready. So I'm gonna produce this next clip. What I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna jump forward after this one to where we're producing the music bed. That's like the soundtrack underneath it, and we're gonna produce the voiceover, the talking head or headless voice that's over the ad. And again, Claude produced that script for us for that. But I want to show you how to do that, and then we're going to move quickly to the assembly. And for that, I'm going to show you how that prompt works, but I want to show you the output that I did yesterday only because I don't want to take more of your time. So here's our scene of the players. She's holding the paddle. I don't know. Yep. So we're getting a little wonky. All right. We got a nice close up there though, and a nice reaction shot. Oh, there you go. That one's better. So again, like I said, one of its quirks is it tries to produce these like multi-shot scenes, and sometimes it works. There's a lot of action things where it gets pretty tripped up. So you need to just like, if you want this to feel real, you got to take time to review. Like obviously, I think we're usable if we wanted like about a second of footage right there of preparing, although I don't know why she's facing that way, so that's kind of problematic. Now she's faced more the right way. It gets a little weird, but right there, I love that tight shot of it hitting, and the magic happens from the sunrise paddle. I don't know if you remember in the original concept, it said, every time the sunrise paddle hits the ball, it's like a burst of sunlight. So that's kind of a cool shot. And then I definitely like his reaction shot. That's usable. And this one's cool, where it's coming and the sunrise hits and it's going back to him. So again, just like the first clip, I would say like the first part might not be totally usable, but there's plenty in here. Again, these are both two 10-second clips for a 15-second ad that we're producing. So we've got plenty of footage here. And that's without our third scene or reference. So like I said, I am going to jump over here and I want to quickly show you some of what was produced for the different concept for a pickleball ad. This one was a little bit more silly dramatic. This guy's obviously very serious about pickleball, getting ready in his garage, getting himself psyched out. He's going hard on the court, diving after it. Just like yesterday, some of this usable, some of it not. Like it gets hung up on the ball disappears weirdly. There's multiple nets. I don't know what he's laying there for, but there's bits here, right? And another one where he's diving. That's one of my favorite right here. I don't see this a lot anymore, but he has 2 thumbs and 5 fingers. So again, check the work. Make sure it's good. But there's some of it here that I could see using it. I like at the end here where he's falling while they're all just casually enjoying themselves. He's clearly taking it way too. They're even laughing at him. So I actually used this one yesterday, and I produced a complete finished one. So we're going to continue with that one just for the sake of not working through some of the generation. I'm now over in 11 Labs. We've covered 11 Labs before. It's, as far as I'm concerned, the most functional and produces the best outcomes in terms of AI generated voices and voiceovers. It also now does sound effects, and it does music, and it does all kinds of stuff now. We're going to start by using it for the voiceover. So I just went in and found what I wanted here. And somebody give me a thumbs up in the chat.
The sea was restless that night, its dark waves shimmering under the pale glow of the moon.
I hope you can hear it. It's a bit of a deep, dramatic storyteller voice. I thought that would pair well with this pickleball enthusiast who's clearly taking it way more seriously than the other pickleballers at his neighborhood court.
The sea was restless.
And all I did was I gave it that voiceover script. So if I'm back in the original Claude prompt again, I've got that voiceover right here. In that case, it was, meet the paddle, so pretty it stops the game, 16 millimeters of pure glow, pickleballs, never looked this good, grab yours at dinky.com. That's a different voiceover than the ad that I'm flipping over to here. but the process remains the same. Thank you all for letting me know. It would be much less impactful if you couldn't hear the audio, you know? So I thought that William, deep engaging storyteller, would pair well. And I went ahead and produced those files. Next, I jumped over into the left-hand tab here in 11 Labs. Sorry, back to 11 Labs. I jumped over to the left-hand tab here. There's a music option. And I just told it, I told it to generate here it is, deep 15-second deep cinematic dramatic cinematic music that slowly build. And so it came up with this. It comes up with two. I think I went with this for our deeply serious pickleball player. Like, and again, you can spend a lot more time here. You can give it much more specific instruction if there's something that you want. But I thought, yeah, and this feels like it. I can see him in his garage, putting the LeBron chop clap, getting ready for pickleball, staring at himself in the mirror. So again, you have at this point generated your clips in Google Flow. One more tip on that too is when you're looking at all media in your project. Sorry, let me get back there. If you go to click on to download your footage, click the little 3 ellipsis button that says more in the top right of your video footage, and you'll get this drop down menu. And when you go hover over the download there, it has an option to upscale. So what it's produced for you is lower resolution. It's 1280 by 720, which is not what high definition looks like anymore. Minimum high definition now is 1920 by 1080, or 4K is becoming the new standard. But minimum you want 1080p, so that's 1920 by 1080. So you can click upscale, and what it's going to do is it's actually going to reproduce that same footage at an upscaled resolution for you. And then when that's ready, it'll pop up your download. So download each of your footage pieces that you've decided to use in their entirety. Like we said, some of these have parts that are not usable, but just download the whole produced clip. Do the same for your voiceover files and your music file. And so now you've basically got a set of assets that now need to be assembled. You've got the music bed, you've got the voiceover, and you've got all of the footage. In the case of the project that I ran yesterday, it also had me run just a static image of my product. And this is to use as kind of like that end card at the end of the video where we'll have the call to action. What we didn't do was have Google Flow try to put any text on this. One tip, don't waste your time. It's going to come out garbled. It's not going to be any decipherable language. It might get part of it right. It'll get a lot of it wrong. It's not worth your time. So it's one step where I would either have Claude do it, or if you really want a chance to design it, you could throw that static image like this in your Canva account and do your text overlay, make it look really nice, and then use that rendered out image in your assembly file. Yeah, the Eco Floors. I hope you do take time to figure it out and go back through this and email me and ask questions. Like if you're struggling through this process. I promise you next week I am going to send a newsletter. So if you are interested in following this, go to aweber.com/shift and sign up for our newsletter, where I'm going to include step-by-step, starting with the mega prompt doc and the prompt that's in there, going to Claude and getting your kind of like your prompt package and concept, going to ChatGPT, getting your reference images made. And I'll kind of walk through every little step of it because I promise you it's really not that complicated. It's just understanding what to do in what order and which tool you're going to for it, really. All right, so we've got our entire assembly package. And so now I'm moving back to Claude. Now here's the important thing, and I had mentioned this before, that you need to be using a paid Claude account for this step. Now, if you have another method of assembling video, maybe you manually want to do it, you don't have a ton of video editing experience, you can throw all that stuff in a Canva project and it's really easy to assemble. I love it. Erica said I had time to create 5 video clips using your instructions during this episode. This is wild. I hope that's because like it was so easy, not because I'm just rambling. So, no, I'm kidding. So if you don't want to pay for a paid Claude account where you can access the Fable 5 model, which is necessary for this final assembly step, you can assemble super easy to use. If you have some video editing experience, like you can use whatever tool you want. You now have your entire source package. But I think one of the coolest unlocks, because I know often it's like, great, now I produced all this footage, but I don't know how to put it together. Cool here is in Claude, I couldn't think of the name of it anymore. In Fable 5, you can now ask it to assemble the footage. So back in the Megadoc, we have a second prompt, and this one's pretty long, and it's going to take you a little bit of time to actually fill in all of the information. But it's for a short video assembly, and it basically says, "Hey, here's my shot list in order: 1, 2, 3, 4," and it gives the file name. So this is the footage you rendered in Google Flow, and you're going to say, in this file, use this opening shot, and you'll give it the timestamp. So you can say use from 4 seconds to 7 seconds, or whatever it is that you want. That's the most manual part of this process, is that you're going to sit there and review your 10-second clips and pick which parts you want and then put them in order in this prompt. And that's down through the still image at the end. And it even says, hold it for 5 seconds with the end card. Then you're going to say, apply the voiceover, use these files in this order. Then you're going to tell it, here's the music track. And you can tell it where to start. It's preset to like level the music and kind of balance it with the voiceover so that they don't blend together too much. It's actually pretty incredible, some of what it does. And then you don't really have to change any of this, but it's going to tell you, it's going to tell it like what kind of output it wants: resolution, the compression engine, the codec, frame rate, things like that. And it just gives itself a check. So this is probably the most manual part of the process, but I promise you, compared to actually sitting and editing a video together, this is going to be the most straightforward version. Jennifer, I do not have other videos right now about editing the clips, but I promise you in that newsletter, when I send the step-by-step, I will include like alternative resources for, how to edit in Canva or other options for how to do that if you don't want to use paid Claude and do the assembly that way. All right, so I did give it my prompt. Sorry, that was the ad package. What am I thinking? Give me 1 second. I'm in the wrong Claude. All right. This is what happens when you do it live, Let me switch Claude accounts real quick here. This is where, co-hosts are critical. And I got to give Alicia props. She volunteered in the midst of like a hectic day for herself to still join. I said, no, I got it. Don't worry about it. Stay focused on other stuff. And here I am just producing dead air, staring into the ether. Okay, so I am now in the correct Claude account, and let me share that. All right, so I actually did give it basically a simpler version of that prompt. The prompt that I've given you guys is much more effective. It's going to produce a much faster result on a single output. But literally what I did was I gave it my Google Flow footage. I gave it my voiceovers. I gave it the still image that I wanted to use. I gave it the music bed, the soundtrack, and I gave it a much more simple instruction, and it still produced a pretty good result. So I basically said, first use this footage at this timestamp, then use this file at this timestamp, then use this file at this timestamp. And it went ahead and assembled my video. So let's go ahead and see what they look like. Let me pop it up here. Oh. All right, here we are. So this is the final ad. We generated the concept in Claude. We generated the reference images for the scenes in ChatGPT using Images 2.0. We then took those reference images and the prompts that Claude gave us to Google Flow to generate our footage. We then took the voiceover that Claude gave us to go into 11 Labs and produce our voiceover and our music bed. And then we took all of those assets. In my case, for this video, it was 4 Google Flow footage files, 1 still image for the end card. It was 3 voiceover files, and it was 1 music file. And I threw all of those into Claude and gave it that prompt telling it, hey, which files, which timestamps to use. And it rendered out and gave me a downloadable video file of my final ad. So here we go.
He trained for this moment. Every single Tuesday. Dinky, take fun seriously.
All right. So clearly needs some work, right? I did that in about 30 minutes yesterday. I would probably take a little bit more time with some of the footage and some of the pacing. There's some dead spots in there if I'm actually producing this. And I did not end up taking the end card and putting it in Canva and having the text put on it or having Claude do that. But you can prompt that and ask it to do that as well. But the fact that we basically just created this fairly like photorealistic looking, did I lose it? There it is. Ad in the amount of time that we did.
He trained for this moment. Every single Tuesday. Dinky, take fun seriously.
So that's it. I mean, and listen, I as I've said at the top, you may not have like any massive interest in creating a video ad for your business, your product, your services. But I hope that some piece of this unlocks like the realization that like video is reaching that point where it's becoming truly useful. I've begun working on broadcast quality ads using AI generation. And while I may be able to spot some stuff, I think more and more people will be hard pressed to identify the difference. And again, that's not with the intent of tricking people, but it's with the intent of producing something that is of the fidelity and quality that a brand expects. And being able to do that now is truly incredible. I hope that it unlocks some sort of use for you. I know even when we started this show 32 episodes ago, we looked at some video tools and we kind of said, like not really there yet. Things are changing rapidly, including, Google's Omni model that was released, and we covered that. As you can see, still pretty rough. Like some of that source footage had some really wonky like slip ups in it. 7 fingers and pickleballs that are kind of like disappearing and reappearing and things like that. It is far from perfect. It gets better with more explicit prompts. So again, I would recommend, modifying those prompts or modifying that initial prompt that's in the Megadoc to say, be incredibly detailed and explicit in your, video generation prompts or something like that, and coaching it to be more clear and specific. Anyway, this was a fun one for me. I love doing video work, and this was kind of a fun unlock of pairing a bunch of different tools together and finding a process that works. I hope that there's some piece of that that's useful. I hope that it helps you avoid some of the hangups of doing this process. There are some hiccups for sure. But seriously, if like Erica, I know you're already generating footage. If you do something with this, I'd love to see it, as always. If any of y'all do anything with this, I would love to hear about it. Please go to aweber.com/shift. You can submit a mailbag question and share things that you're working on with us. We won't share it on the show unless you give us permission to. You can also sign up for the newsletter there. And like I said, next week I will send a step-by-step of this process with links, and links to those prompts, links to the resources, as well as some additional how to assemble the footage or edit it if you don't want to use Fable 5. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. I did not feel super alone, despite the fact that there's no one here with me. But good news, we'll be back on Tuesday at noon Eastern time, as always. And Alicia will be with me all week next week for Tuesday and Friday. And I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday.